Hello dear listener, please subscribe to our channel. Enjoy watching. Just on a late autumn evening, I sat by the fireplace, reading a book under the soft glow of a floor lamp that illuminated the pages while leaving the rest of the room in a gentle, soothing light. I had stumbled upon an intriguing detective novel and decided to dedicate my free evening to immersing myself in its captivating plot. The faint sound of the wind rising outside the window was relaxing, calming me after a long day of work. Marion was working the night shift as a duty nurse tonight. I had grown accustomed to her unpredictable schedule over the years. On the other hand, it allowed me to indulge in my favorite pastime. I had always loved reading books, starting from childhood with fairy tales and gradually transitioning to fiction. I even met my wife thanks to books. I remember visiting the library to find something interesting for myself while she was finishing her medical college and needed literature for her studies. When I turned the corner of a bookshelf and saw her struggling to reach the top shelf with her petite stature, I hurried to help her. At that moment, a few books snagged on the one she needed tumbled down on us from above. We were both startled by the unexpected turn of events, and I instinctively shielded her head with one hand to prevent the falling book from hitting her. Then, something remarkable happened. Our gazes met, just like in an old heartwarming movie, and Marion blushed slightly, making her even more charming. In that moment, I realized I didn't want to let her go. We introduced ourselves. I helped her with the books, and when she was about to leave, I invited her to join me for coffee someday, but to my delight, she agreed right away. Since then, we've been together. We dated for a few months, and then she moved in with me. A year later, we decided to make our relationship official, and now we've been raising our adorable daughter, who started first grade this year. She was as quiet and shy as her mother, but she loved watching cartoons. I had bought many DVDs of various animated shows just for her, and she spent her evenings mostly glued to the animated characters on the screen. Today, after helping her with her homework and sharing a pizza dinner, I took my place in the armchair by the fireplace while she retreated to her room to watch DuckTales. A phone call interrupted my reading. Potentially liked. I got up and reached for the phone on the coffee table. I tried to reach it without leaving my seat, but the table was slightly farther away than I had thought, and I had to raise myself a bit, causing the book to slip from my lap. Hello! I answered the phone, picking up the fallen book. John. Hey, how are you? I heard my younger brother's voice on the other end, who, unlike me, had been somewhat irresponsible since childhood. He often relied on our parents for support, never held down a steady job for long, lived with his girlfriend in a shabby apartment for a while, but eventually returned to our family home. He also enjoyed a carefree lifestyle and had a penchant for drinking. Yeah, I'm fine. What do you want, Zach? I already had a feeling he was going to ask me for something. Why jump to conclusions? I just decided to call and see how you're doing. We haven't talked in a while. Yeah, ever since you borrowed money from me, you've been pretty disappeared. Put on. John, that was awkward. I've been busy all this time. Seriously? Busy with what? Actually, I've got a job now, and I've been working a lot. Jennifer and I patched things up, and we need the money for us, Zach explained. My gut feeling told me that he wasn't just calling to share news about his new job. I had my doubts, given his track record of working for no more than a month at a time before either getting fired due to drinking or having conflicts for various reasons. Go on, what do you want? Do you need money again? But you remember I said I wouldn't lend you money anymore, right? I questioned. Yeah, John, I remember. But please listen. I will get my paycheck for a while, and Jennifer's birthday is in a few days. I'm short on cash for a gift. I'm really begging you, brother. I'll pay you back as soon as I get my salary, both this time and the last one. I swear. And all the many's as many times before, right? Zach, who are you trying to fool? When will you straighten up? I retorted. So will you help me or not? Or should I call Mom? She definitely won't refuse, Zach said with a hint of blackmail in his tone. I remained silent for a few seconds, contemplating the best course of action. After all, he was my brother, and brothers were supposed to help each other. How much do you need? I finally asked. Despite my reservations, I decided to assist him once more and hoped to have a serious talk when we met in person. Sometimes he did listen to me, but he would eventually return to his reckless ways. Oh, John, you're a lifesaver. $500 will do. I promise I'll pay it all back. His voice sounded joyful and grateful. Why do you need so much? Are you planning to buy her a palace or something? I teased. Fixed a cake, Sean. There's this handbag she's been eyeing in the store window we often pass by. I want to surprise her with it. That's all. Alright. Zach, can you come over tomorrow evening? It's quite late already and Cindy will be going to bed soon. Although I didn't really want to. I decided to help my brother again and hoped that during our meeting, I could steer him in the right direction once more. Sometimes he did listen to me. He agreed to come over and I mentally prepared a lecture for him. As soon as I finished the call and still held the phone in my hand, I heard a faint patter behind me, running around. I saw my daughter clutching a large stuffed rabbit in her hands. She stood silently, gazing at me. Hence, "Hey there, sweetie. Haven't gone to bed yet." "It's already pretty late," I said. "I want some water," she said softly and approached me. "Water, huh?" I lifted her onto my lap. "Alright, let's go get some water. But you're a big girl now. You can pour it yourself. But it's dark there." "I'm scared." "I want you to give me water and read me a story," she replied. "Alright, my dear, let's go. But then it's straight to bed. Tomorrow is a school day, remember? I hate school. I have to do homework," she pouted, making a funny face. I chuckled and carried her to the kitchen. Tonight, I would indulge her childlike whims. Usually, it was my wife who put her to bed, and when she had a night shift, Cindy fell asleep to the sound of my voice. The next day, I started to worry that I might not make it to my meeting with my brother on time because there had been an accident in one of the workshops, and I had a lot of work ahead. I seized a moment and called home. Mary had already picked up our daughter from school and was preparing dinner. I asked her not to give Zach anything without me, and when she assured me, I continued with my work. Knowing how kind-hearted Marian was, I realized that my brother wouldn't miss the opportunity to ask for as much as possible. So, just to be safe, I reminded her. My wife knew that my brother wouldn't get his life together and that he was mostly to blame for his situation, but she still felt sorry for him, given her kind and compassionate nature. It was already dusk when I finally finished work and rushed home, while waiting at yet another traffic light. I called Marian to check on the situation at home. Zach had just arrived, and I told her I would be home soon. She requested that I stop by the supermarket to pick up some groceries since Zach would be joining us for dinner. Although she didn't explicitly say it, I knew she had invited himself. My brother never turned down a free meal. Since Pachan is Baba's Tishio. I'm glad we could meet. Zach extended his hand in greeting when I arrived. "Yes, I can see that you're glad." I shook his hand out of politeness. "You can't just drop by for a visit, can you?" "Zach, just happened this way." I tried to explain that I was at work. "Boys, enough arguing," Marian intervened. "Oh yeah, I have what you asked for in the car. I'll go get it now." I hurried to retrieve the groceries from the car and Zach followed me. While I was getting the bags, he tried to soften me up a bit. "John, you shouldn't be so hard on me. It's not my fault that my life turned out this way. It's just bad luck. Guts, you see. I'm trying my best, but I keep having no luck." After closing the car door, I turned to him and stared at him intently. "Zach, you're an adult now. I don't need your excuses or tales of bad luck. You know very well that only you can help yourself. Honey, I nor mom, nor dad. You chose the easy path and hope that will cater to you for the rest of your life. Hey, don't get so worked up. I came to you for help, but I'm not just asking. I promised to pay it back." I just looked at him reproachfully and headed back to the house. Zach stayed outside to have a smoke. Meanwhile, Marian had begun setting the table and asked where my brother had disappeared to. "He's outside, smoking away his last dollars. It would have been better if he spent it on food." "Why are you being like this?" "He's your brother," Marian said as if defending him. "Marian, I don't understand why you pity him so much. He's a grown man with his head on his shoulders. John, you're too harsh on him. What if you're in his shoes? Wouldn't you want your brother to help you a little?" I sighed, realizing that this argument wasn't going anywhere. "I'm not his shoes, and I never will be. And you're too kind," I remarked. At that moment, Zach entered, and our conversation shifted to another topic. During dinner, my brother tried to entertain us with stories about himself and how he was trying to turn his life around. While my daughter was present at the table, I tried to hold back and kept my moral lessons to myself. However, later, after dinner, when she asked her mom for a piece of cake to take to her room and brought it there on a small plate, I led Zach into the living room and finally expressed everything that had been building up for some time. He seemed slightly hurt, or maybe he was just pretending to gain my sympathy. Nonetheless, it had some effect, and I gave him some money, warning him that it was the last time. "Thanks, John. You've saved me. I'll pay it back. I promise. He thanked me, pocketing the money. Don't need to promise. You'll still break it. I know you. I told him. He left and I remained in the living room, noticing Marian at the doorway, drying her hands with a kitchen towel. She looked at me as if I had committed a crime. But I had no other choice, and besides, I didn't mind giving him the $500 he had begged for. I just wanted him to finally get his act together and learn to solve his problems independently. Several days passed and I had almost forgotten about my brother's recent visit. He hadn't reached out. I continued to live my life, focusing on taking care of my little daughter and maintaining harmony in the family. One day, when I returned from work, Zach was already sitting in the living room with a girl dressed provocatively, chewing gum. Marian was serving them tea with pastries. What's going on here? I asked from the doorway without even greeting. Oh, John, your brother dropped by for a visit. My wife replied, what, for money again? I told you not to ask me about it anymore. John, why are you being so confrontational? I just came for a visit. Well, I'm just a visit. I brought you your dad, he said, standing up and reaching into his pocket for some money. He didn't even count it. Here you go. I told you I'd pay you back. And you didn't believe me. I don't understand. Where did you get all this money? I asked in genuine surprise. You won't believe it, bro. I found a new job, he said, sitting back on the couch and hugging his companion. I looked puzzled at Marian, who had already set up the teacups and was about to carry the tray away. She simply shrugged, indicating that she knew nothing about it. Tell me about the job, I said, sitting in the armchair opposite my brother. By the way, this is Lisa. Nice to meet you. He introduced her, hugging her, but she reluctantly waved at me. And where's Jennifer? Oh, it's over with her. She decided that on her own. Too spoiled. But Lisa here is nothing like that, right? He kissed her, but she continued to chew gum in silence. I once again asked him how he managed to come up with such a large sum of money so quickly. Zach continued to evade a straightforward answer, claiming that his new job was profitable, but that he couldn't share any details because it might affect his future. It seemed suspicious to me, and I thought he might have gotten involved with a bad crowd, forcing him to steal cars or something worse. However, he appeared calm, and I began to think that he probably wasn't engaged in any criminal activities. Since childhood, whenever he did something wrong, he would get nervous and anxious and stutter when he tried to explain himself. None of that was happening now, so I started to calm down. Still, I remained curious about how he found such a job and what he was doing for that kind of money. We sat for a while, drinking tea and chatting, mostly just Zeke and me. Marian spent more time with our daughter or in the kitchen. Zach's new girlfriend mostly remained silent, observing every corner of the room. Eventually, they left, leaving me to wonder what Zach had gotten himself into. Late in the evening, after our daughter had gone to bed, Mary came to the living room and initiated a serious conversation. She began by telling me that I had been too harsh on my brother. And should have been more kind and understanding. After all, he had managed to turn his life around and was now earning well, and I should have believed in him and helped him in his difficult times. Her words put me in an awkward position, but I didn't want to argue with her, perhaps because I knew that there was some truth in what she was saying. I don't know. Marian, maybe you're right. I just wanted to do what was best. I replied, looking at her. But I still think you're defending him too much. Are you his lawyer? Nonsense. You're talking nonsense. I merely expressed my opinion. Don't forget we're raising a daughter, and her future is uncertain. The world outside is so cruel and unfair. Anything can happen. Oh, Marian, you're being dramatic. Answered all. Let you know. John, I didn't want to tell you like this, but Marian. I lost my job, she confessed, pausing for a few seconds and looking down at the floor. Well, now you know. Wait, tell Marian. Did you quit, or were you fired? Then this happened. John, why are you interrogating me? It's already tough enough as it is. She once again gazed up the floor sadly. I hugged her, trying to show my support. I was fired, she continued. It happened at the worst possible time. I was supposed to be promoted to head nurse, but there was an unfortunate incident at the hospital, and the chief physician just fired me. What happened? Why did they fire you? Tell me, what did you do? John, it's difficult for me to talk about it right now. I'm sorry, I just can't. I feel awful, she said, leaving the living room and heading to the bedroom. Her confession left me in a state of shock. Today had brought me far too many shocking revelations to process, and I tried to make sense of everything, hoping that the picture would become clearer. However, there were more questions than answers, and I felt somewhat lost. Marian gave me a more detailed account of her dismissal only by the evening of the following day when I returned home from work. She took our daughter to her room and turned on cartoons for her to ensure she wouldn't overhear our conversation, even though, in my opinion, she was still too young to comprehend it all, and we were alone. Marian explained she had been assigned to look after a patient who had been involved in a car accident and turned out to be an influential figure in the city. Marian was doing her job as usual, but at some point, something went wrong and the patient passed away. When she noticed the monitors indicating a deterioration in his condition, she immediately called for the doctors, but they couldn't save him, and the patient died. Then she noticed that a relative of the deceased had entered the chief physician's office and stayed there for about 15 minutes. Afterward, the chief called her in and informed her that the patient's family wanted to sue for negligence and delayed care. Since the attending doctor had to disclose who had been on duty for the patient, they gave her an ultimatum. Either she would be fired or they would take legal action. Are you seriously telling me all of this right now? It's hard to believe that something like that could happen. It sounds absurd. How could this even be possible? I asked in disbelief. Do you want me to hire good lawyers to make him answer for this? He'll lose his job. No, John, please don't, she said, lowering her head. Rachel, I really neglected my duties at that moment when the patient's condition worsened. I left briefly to get myself some coffee from the vending machine. I wasn't supposed to leave his side for even a minute. Marian, you're only human. Surely they must understand that. Thoughts. John, just leave it as it is. What about these people? She hesitated. What will they do? Are they some kind of criminals? Chin, what have you gotten yourself into? Now I was genuinely concerned about my wife, as her story hinted that she might be in trouble, and it seemed to be serious. If, as she had said, her dismissal was the only right course of action to avoid getting into more significant trouble. I wanted to know more details and help her get out of this situation. I was unsure of what to do and where to start. On top of everything, I had a heavy workload at work this week, which was terrible timing. For a couple of days, things went relatively smoothly. While I was at work, Marian stayed at home, taking care of domestic chores and spending more time with our daughter, picking her up from school a bit earlier. But I couldn't get Marian's story out of my mind, and during my free time, I continued to think about it. One day, my brother came to visit us again, this time alone. Come on in. Chung's, what brings you here? I didn't know what to expect from him this time, whether he would ask me for money again, or if, on the contrary, everything was finally going well for him and he wanted to share his success. And I just dropped by for a visit. I was passing by, so here I am. Listen, Zach, are you hungry? We've already had dinner. No. I'm fine. I told you I was here for a visit. Let's go outside. I have a couple of beers in my car. We can sit and chat just like in old times. I accepted his invitation. Marian was busy with our daughter's schoolwork anyway, and it was a chance to catch up with my brother. To Miss Grenans, I'm sorry if I've been a bit rough lately. It's just that things haven't been going well for us. Really? Is something wrong with the perfect John? My brother teased, to which I responded. To which I responded with a critical look. Okay, share your troubles. What's happened? Yeah, well, my wife is having some trouble at work. Don't worry about it. There's nothing you can do anyway. I replied with a hint of sadness, opening the beer can he had handed me. And you're without a girlfriend again? How does that happen? Did you leave her at home, or did you find another one already? No, Jennifer came by. And, I'm amazed by these women. One moment it's one thing, and the next it's something else. She liked something, threw a fit and left, and a couple of days later, she showed up saying she missed me. It's just bullshit, Zach said. Maybe she found out about the money you've gotten out. I smirked. Don't. I thought about that too. I even asked her, but she says she loves me and invited me to move in with her. And what did you tell her? I said I'd think about it. But let her think about it now. John, sometimes I envy you. Your Marian is so calm and composed. She doesn't run around like crazy. She's the perfect wife and a beauty. Don't worry. Zach, you'll find the perfect girl for you sooner or later. Maybe. Anyway, enough about me. Finally, things are starting to work out for me. Now tell me about your problem. What happened? I don't think you can help with it anyway. Maybe I can, but it might make you feel better. Thus to me. I know from experience. My brother was right about that. We had always shared our problems in the past, and even when we were teenagers, we often helped each other out. I briefly recounted my situation. After listening, he also couldn't believe that something like this had happened to my wife. He started to suggest that something wasn't right, that she might be hiding something or making up the story just to get me off her back and stop asking questions. I don't want to disappoint you, bro, but you're a fool if you believe all this nonsense. Yeah, before, I thought your wife was almost a saint, all proper and everything. Hey, watch your words. You're talking about my wife. I snapped. No offense, bro. I'm just speaking my mind here. Look at this from a different angle, he continued. You can't deny that there's something fishy going on, and she might not be telling you everything or might have invented this whole story just to make you back off and stop asking questions. I was taken aback by my brother's comments. His skepticism made me question the situation even more. Still, I couldn't help but trust my wife and believe her side of the story. Zach, I appreciate your concern, but I know Marianne. She wouldn't lie about something like this. Something like this, I said firmly okay if you say. So he shrugged, but just be cautious, John. Sometimes things are not what they seem. With that, he pulled out a cigarette and lit it, offering me wood. But I declined. You know, I don't smoke. Yeah, right. I forgot you've always been the responsible one, you know, John. Maybe I can share a secret with you. But you have to promise not to tell anyone. Deal? What are you talking about? Well, it's about my job. Actually, yeah. I'm involved in some not-so-legal activities, but I'm not committing any crimes per se. I was hired by this guy to gather information for him since I've explored every nook and cranny of the city over the years and know many shady characters. He thought I could be useful to him, so he pays me for this. I don't understand. What exactly do you do? I dust up dirt on certain people, and he decides what to do with it. I get paid well for my work, and for keeping my mouth shut. My brother's revelation left me shocked and concerned. I had no idea he was involved in such activities. It was a lot to process, especially in the midst of the uncertainty surrounding my wife's situation. Zach, the last thing we need is for you to get into more trouble. Because of this, I cautioned him. Oh, don't worry, there won't be any problems with this. Can you trust me? Now that I can help you, I can try to find out what really happened. Just don't say anything to your wife. For now, I agreed to his offer, albeit with some reservations. He assured me that he had experience and could handle the task still. I worried about him. If Miriam's story was true, he might also find himself in trouble, not to mention the potential risks for our daughter and me. Zach bid me farewell and left. I returned to the house where Marian and Cindy were waiting. Marian asked what we had discussed, and I lied, telling her it was just a conversation about men and their girlfriends, although for a moment I felt compelled to tell Marian about my talk with Zach. I decided against it, believing in Zach's sincerity. His words sounded genuine, and I had always been able to detect when he was lying. This time, I didn't sense any deceit. In his words, I spent the next few days anxiously waiting for news from Zach. But he didn't contact me. I couldn't call him either because he disliked carrying a phone. If he needed to make a call, he used a payphone or a public phone booth to pass the time and distract myself from the uncertainty. I delved back into my books. Marian had a hard time pulling me away from them. Then on a weekend, Zach came to our house and knocked on the door. What's up? Did you find out anything? I eagerly questioned him as he invited me to walk with him. To walk with him to his car? Oh, let's go. I'll tell you everything in the car, he said. But why not here and now? Why wait? I couldn't contain my curiosity, but I also harbored some concerns about where he was taking me and what would come next. How is it? Zach drove us to his rundown apartment, which looked more like a dump. Do you live here? I asked, puzzled. Well, it's my temporary place. I can't bring girls to my parents' house, can I? It's a bit cozy here once you get used to it. You just need to adjust. You're not used to it with your fancy place and someone to clean up for you. Look here, it's just me. Okay, does that get to the point? What do you have to tell me? John, I want to warn you that you won't like what I have to say. Just tell me. I urged him, my voice rising in anticipation. The situation had become so intriguing that I couldn't wait to learn the truth. She lied to you. Marian wasn't fired because of the patient's death. Can't you see that this story is made up and shrouded in secrecy? Regardless of whether I believed it or not, why was she fired then? Did you find out anything? Tell me. As for Marian, I deal with her separately. But John, I'm sorry to say this, but she was cheating on you. As soon as he said that, a heavy silence filled the room, interrupted only by the muffled sounds of street noise. John, it's nonsense. You're lying. You just want to get back at me for trying to guide you onto the right path all these years and then refusing to help you. I responded after a moment of contemplation. No, we're brothers. I genuinely understand your intentions now. Maybe I've finally grown up and realized it. But believe me, I never intended to deceive or hurt you or seek revenge. I'm just telling you what I found out. But wait. Get him. Well, why? Look, no, I can't believe that. Oh, you're lying. I truly didn't want to believe it. I couldn't understand why Zach had brought me to his place just to tell me this. I headed for the door, intending to leave. She was cheating on you with that head doctor, and she quit her job because his wife threatened to expose her if she didn't leave him. He shouted after me as I exited. I caught a taxi and spent the ride home contemplating what I had heard. Was Zach telling the truth, or was he really trying to hurt me? I planned to confront Marion and demand the truth, whatever it might be. But if she had lied to me from the start, what was stopping her from lying again? So next details. I decided to drive to the hospital where she used to work. At the hospital's reception, I inquired about the chief physician's whereabouts. The nurse hesitated to answer at first. I asked who I was and why I needed to see the doctor. But I pulled a $100 bill from my pocket and discreetly pushed it towards her. Yes, money could sometimes work wonders. She quickly hid the money and pointed me in the direction where the doctor might be found. On the relevant floor. I began searching for him. Passersby looked at me with suspicion, but I continued my search. So I decided to use the storeroom I was passing by. There I found a bucket and a mop, and disguised as a janitor. I went to look for the chief physician's office. Eventually, I found his office and watched him through the transparent door as he discussed work-related matters with colleagues. I didn't want any witnesses, so I waited. Later, he left his office with the others, and I was about to call out to him when he walked in the opposite direction. I followed him, and his path led to the men's restroom. Perfect, I thought to myself as I entered behind him, locking the door securely. He didn't see me lock the door, and as I passed the stalls, he looked to see if anyone else was there but us. He was busy thoroughly washing his hands. I stood next to him. Excuse me, are you a surgeon? Yes. Why? Surgeon-in-Chief of Hinckley? Who are you? He finally gave me his full attention. What do you want? I wanted him to know why Marion Craig was fired. You fired her, didn't you? Are you a reporter or a police officer? What does Marion have to do with anything? Oh, you're even calling her by her first name. It's as simple as that. Tell me, I'm her husband, and I want to know the truth. Didn't she tell you anything? I don't like her story. I have no idea what you're talking about. The doctor continued to evade. At that moment, I couldn't hold back any longer. I'd accumulated a mix of emotions, from disappointment to aggression. But something inside me snapped and I erupted, grabbing the doctor by the collar. I forcefully pushed him against the restroom door, demanding the truth. The door gave way under his weight, and he fell onto the tiled floor. I approached him, and as he began to deny everything, I grabbed him by the hair and, overcome by emotions, dunked his head into the toilet several times. Talk, damn it. Why was Marion fired? I revealed to him that I was Marion's husband. Whether it was due to this revelation or the unusual washing, he finally confessed and told me the truth. Spitting out water, he recounted the same story I had heard from my brother. Only then did I release him, leaning against the restroom wall next to the doctor. I pondered how little I had truly known about my wife all these years and how skillfully she had concealed everything from me. Now I understood what had been hidden behind her angelic demeanor and patience. If you want to continue your surgeries in peace, you won't tell anyone about our conversation. Otherwise, I'll find you and break every finger. Do you understand? The doctor simply nodded in silence. I left the hospital, seething with anger. When I entered the house and saw Marion, my first impulse was to give her a good slap. I was on the verge of causing a scene, but then Cindy came out from behind her. I didn't want to hurt my daughter. Marion's eyes revealed that she had guessed I knew everything. She held onto our daughter's hand tightly. Looking at Cindy, I didn't want her to see a monster in me. I turned away and went to my parents' house. From there, I called Marion and told her everything, explaining that I didn't want to live with her anymore and wished to communicate only with our daughter. Many years have passed since then. I reconciled with my brother almost immediately, asking for his forgiveness. Our daughter has grown up, visiting me frequently, and I've seen her becoming more and more like Marian in appearance. It pleased me that she was just as beautiful. I could only pray that she wouldn't turn out to be just as rotten and deceitful on the inside. If you enjoyed this story, please like and leave a comment. It's important for us and will help promote this video. Thank you for watching us.